What's up, business heroes? I just released an interview with my friend Rich Avery, the host of the More Than a Pastor podcast. In it, he shares a lot of great advice, not just for pastors, but anybody interested in earning a little extra income. Because, face it, we all need to earn a little extra income. Our dollars are not stretching nearly as far today as they did just a couple years ago. But for the sake of time, I had to cut out a good chunk of our conversation, but we talked about some really interesting stuff. I wanted to make that available to you here. So this video is a deep cut from our interview where we dig deeper into topics like the theology of work and how do you reconcile the idea of give us this day our daily bread, our reliance on God, trusting Him to meet our needs, but also having an entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to grow a business and make more money. Is it even right to want to make more money? So we dig in to some of that stuff in this conversation right here. And if you haven't already, check out the original interview where we talk about side hustle stuff. So I hope you enjoy. How do you reconcile, not just for pastors, but any person of faith or any person with just a, internal moral compass, that pursuit of income and wanting to provide for yourself, but also trusting that God will provide and whatever's supposed to happen will happen?
Maybe I'd go back to like my grandparents who were farmers. God made the stuff grow, but they had to plant. My grandfather on my mom's side was a fruit farmer, so he had to plant the trees. He had to water them, spray them. He had to do all these things to set the best conditions that he could, but God had to provide the rain in the sunshine. We are co-creators with God. He has put the desire within us to create. If we're made in His image, then we, like Him, create. We, like Him, can have a vision of what things could be. God invites us. He puts things within us. He gives us the conditions, the abilities, the visions. And then He says, now go do something with that. And I think a lot of times we limit ourselves because we don't believe in ourselves as much as God does in terms of what we are capable of doing to start a movement or launch an organization or start a business or meet a need in our community or in our world. And so I think sometimes He's just waiting for us to take a step. If we weren't entrepreneurs and we worked for someone else, God provides through that job, but we still got to show up every day. We have to punch in, we have to do the work or whatever. So I see it as we're being co-creators with Him and fulfilling our mandate, if you will, I guess, as a created being to live out the purpose that He's called us to.
I don't know. This might go deeper. Maybe this will be in like the producer's cut or something. But
there you go.
I'm thinking there's this view that work, as it pertains to you as a person of faith, is really just to serve God. But what that means, I think we have a small view of that. And what serving God means is you make money so you can give money to the church to support ministries and outreach. And, there's good things that happen through that, like important work happens in the church, but that work can also be happening outside that context. Or also understanding that the church isn't just the building and the organization and your That's local church building and all of the ministries that are involved there. You can be participating in that work if you are a nurse, a school teacher, a dry cleaner, a restaurateur. Like the way that you take what's been given to you in the garden, to use that example, and to make something more with it and to curate it. I feel like that's a much more richer view of how we can be co-creators. It's not just kind of like make some money and, oh, you're a business person. Okay, I guess you can be a blessing by giving your money to the people who really know how to use it. Like, but there's a lot more there that I feel like we have traditionally kind of lost sight of.
Yeah. Years ago, before I became a pastor, I worked for a small organization that tried to bridge the gap between like clergy and entrepreneurs. And it was started by a Catholic priest. And so in that time, in the Catholic Church, at least, or the ones he was familiar with, entrepreneurs were often viewed as like the boogeyman. You know, they were the bad guys that had all the money and they were taking advantage of everybody. And the only thing they could do was to give their money to the poor, and then that would redeem that money. But he instilled within me and the entrepreneurs that he worked with the idea of the entrepreneurial vocation, that God has called you to be an entrepreneur. And so then how can you use that calling to make the world a better place, to provide value for your customers, to provide income for your employees? And so he helped people to realize, he tried to bridge that gap, that it's not just about trying to make a lot of money so that you could give it to people that are doing good, but you're doing good in what you're doing in your business because you're providing jobs, opportunities, you're improving your community, maybe if you have a global business, you're impacting the world or whatever. So that's always stuck with me, and that's something I tried to carry forward then in my ministry in the church and in helping pastors, because, a lot of times, like for me, we have different missionaries we support or different people passions that we care about. And so I'm looking at how can I create more income that can help those, that I can give to those folks, but also what could I do that could help them create more where they are in their context. So like all of us can be entrepreneurs, all of us can be co-creators. And I think a lot of people in developing nations have been stuck on the receiving end for so long, and they haven't been able to live into the creative ability that God's put within them to create and produce in their context, as limited as it may be, but all of us can have that opportunity. So I really see how entrepreneurship or enterprise, co-creating with God, that can lift up everyone, and it's not just for those that are entrepreneurial minded or in wealthy nations or whatever, but even in the developing world can make a huge difference. I think development can do much more than charity can do. Helping people to create their own businesses and opportunities can do more for them than, us giving charity, because that runs out at some point. Eventually you run out of other people's money. And so you gotta create your own money. So.
You were talking about mindset at the beginning of our conversation, and I almost feel like the traditional view and flow of money in a context like this is usually like, okay, the wealthy, pagan, godless business people, if they want to give us some money into the church to support the work, like that's being a little harsh. But like the workers who produce that aren't directly involved with ministry themselves will be generous and give to the church to support the ministries there. And some of those ministries are being generous and giving to people who have even less. So it's this kind of trickle-down economics.
Sure.
But I feel that the mindset has kind of trickled down as well. And if you're thinking the only way that you can participate in this is just through giving, and if you're on the receiving end, the only way that you can benefit from it is just by getting something and not actually taking more ownership and participating, being a co-creator, and seeing yourself as being able to be productive and generate and take care of yourself and take care of the people around you, and maybe start to back channel, some of this productivity. I feel that, that mindset has really kind of got us locked in a very, in a one-way street that I don't think is necessarily, the right way we should be going.
Yeah.
Just an interesting
Yep. I would agree.
Just stuff that I like talking about. What's something that we could do to maybe break out of that?
Well, I think everyone's got like a dream inside of them, and sometimes we've put it on hold because we think I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I don't have enough money, or this is not the right time, or whatever. I guess I felt like a lot of, no one job taps into all of your skills, talents, abilities, interests, passions, all of that, as great as any one job may be. And the same for being in pastoral ministry, as great as being a pastor may be, it doesn't tap into everything of who I am. And that's why I've had this concept of being more than a pastor, because I think there are other outlets or other ways that we can become more fulfilled and become co-creators with God than just in the pastoral ministry sphere. So I would say if you've had a dream or an interest or something for some time and you're not sure, you kept thinking maybe it's too late or it's not for me, I just say take a step. Begin to research it. Begin to, if you're a praying person, pray about it, or begin to talk with someone about it, and maybe just say, okay, I'm going to take 5 hours a week, or maybe 10 hours a week, and start to, take some steps toward this. You don't have to have it all figured out, but just allocate a little time, allocate a little bit of resource to begin to think through and brainstorm what it could be and how could you take a few steps to get there. So I think we're in this creator generation right now where people are more inspired than ever to create something, especially in the younger generations. They're kind of like born with it. They're born creators. They're on YouTube or TikTok or whatever all the time. But I think for those of us who are a little bit older, we too can tap into that and not think that's only for the younger folks, because maybe we've put things on the shelf or on hold for so long, and maybe now's the season. Maybe now's the time to take some action on that and just see what happens. So yeah, I guess that's my encouragement for folks.